Hello class. Today we're going to talk about the history of management. Chapter 3 is going to be broken up into two separate lectures just to make sure that you have an opportunity to really take in and synthesize all of the changes that have happened throughout the course of time to help us to get to where we are today with common management practices. As I had mentioned, this lecture is going to explore the historical development of management thought from the ancient world to the Industrial Revolution. Management has always been a crucial part of human civilization, evolving over time to address the complexities of commerce, governance, and production. And together, we're going to examine how different societies have contributed to management principles from the earliest Sumerians to the structured corporations that we find or found within the Industrial Revolution. The evolution of management thought has been shaped by several different things, including economic needs, political structures, technological advancement, and human labor dynamics. Understanding these historical developments are going to help us see how management theories have evolved and why they remain relevant today. Let's start with the Sumerians. The Sumerians lived in what is present-day Iraq, and they are accredited with some of the earliest advancements in trade and management. They developed the first known writing system, which allowed merchants to keep records of transactions. This was a critical development because it enabled consistency, transparency, and accountability in trade. Unlike earlier bartering systems, the Sumerians also used an early form of money. They refer to those as clay coins to facilitate transactions. This monetary system allowed for more complex trading arrangements. With increased trade came the need for coordination, making the role of the manager crucial for organizing transactions and ensuring records were accurate. This is one of the earliest examples of structured management in human history. Next, we're going to go to the Babylonians. The Babylonians were the first to introduce legal codes. In fact, it was referred to as the Code of Hammurabi. This set of 282 laws regulated commerce, wages, contracts, and even property rights. It provided consistency in economic and managerial practices, ensuring that wages were set fairly for various labor roles, such as doctors, builders, and merchants. Law 104 in the Code is one of the earliest known examples of accounting principles, demonstrating the need for systematic record keeping and management oversight. Together, these written regulations ensure that businesses operated within a structured legal framework, laying the foundation for standardized labor relations and ethical business conduct. Staying with the Babylonians, we're now going to talk about Nebuchadnezzar. In fact, Nebuchadnezzar introduced the concept of performance-based incentives. He rewarded workers, particularly cloth weavers, based on their productivity. This early form of merit-based pay encouraged workers to be more efficient, as well as improving the overall output. Instead of setting fixed wages like Hammurabi's code, Nebuchadnezzar recognized the motivational power of incentives. This method is still widely used today, from bonuses to commission-based compensation structures. His contributions to management demonstrate an early understanding of how employee motivation affects productivity. Now we're going to switch a little bit and we're going to start to talk about some of the influences from the ancient Egyptians. In fact, the Egyptians have demonstrated some of the most sophisticated management principles in the construction of their pyramids alone. Their projects required meticulous planning, division of labor, and coordination. Workers were organized into specialized roles, including stonecutters, transporters, and overseers. The Egyptians also introduced the concept of span control, determining that the optimal number of workers per supervisors was around 10. This remains a key consideration in modern management. Additionally, the Egyptians implemented hierarchy and supervision, ensuring that laborers remained productive and that large-scale projects were completed efficiently. Sun Tzu, a Chinese military strategist, emphasized the principle of strategy, organization, and leadership in the art of war. He stressed the importance of communication, coordination, and adaptability. These are all concepts that are highly relevant in business management today, and of course, we're constantly seeing communication as a common thread between what we've already talked about in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, even tying into the role of the manager as well as decision making. In this case, he had actually introduced ideas like knowing one's strengths and weaknesses, delegating, and carefully planning. These ideas transcend military strategy and apply directly to managerial decision making, particularly in strategic planning and leadership. Now let's jump over to the Han Dynasty. The Han Dynasty is where China developed the first bureaucratic administration. Officials were selected based on Confucian exams, ensuring a merit-based system. This was a really important shift as it started to shift from hereditary appointments to a structured system based on governance that looked specifically at skills and knowledge. Bureaucracy, as developed in the Han Dynasty, is still an essential feature of modern organizations, from governments to corporations. It introduced hierarchical structures and standardized procedures, both of which are key elements of management still today. We can't talk about the history of management and not talk about some of the greatest Greek philosophers, such as Socrates and Plato, who deeply contributed to management by emphasizing rational thought, leadership skills, and division of labor. Plato suggested that people should specialize in tasks suited to their skills, an idea that later influenced the Industrial Revolution as well as a variety of different efficiencies. Socrates focused on dialogue, knowledge sharing, and the development of managerial skills, advocating for a structured approach to decision making and organizational leadership. Let's talk about the Romans. The Romans took management a step further by implementing standardization in trade, law, and corporate structures. They introduced a formalized currency system, standardized weights and measures, and even an early form of joint stock companies. Heck, who would have thought? Their management practices allowed for the administration of a vast empire and the development of trade networks. Okay, let's jump over to the Middle Ages and let's talk about trade in Europe. Well, at this time, trade in Europe was actually declining. However, it started to flourish in other parts of the world, particularly in the Muslim and Chinese economies. European commerce revived through the Crusades, which brought a variety of wealth, technology, and new managerial ideas back to Europe. The rise of guilds during this period marked an early form of structured labor organization where apprentices learned specialized skills from master craftsmen. So think of it, this is where we start to get to the unions that we see today, as well as the levels within the unions. As part of the Italian Renaissance, we saw significant achievements and advancements in commerce that led to modern banking systems and the emergence of multinational corporations. Double entry bookkeeping, which was developed in Italy, helped businesses track profits and expenses more systematically. The expansion of trade and finance required business managers to oversee large operations, establishing the need for organized business practices. Now let's jump to the Industrial Revolution and how it transformed management by introducing large-scale production in factories. The emergence of international corporations, such as the Hudson Bay Company, created new managerial challenges. This shift from home-based production to mechanize factory systems required managers to coordinate large workforces, optimize processes, and ensure productivity. Frederick Wilson Taylor, known as the father of scientific management, revolutionized managerial practices by applying engineering principles to work processes. Interesting fun fact, I actually just referenced his work in a recent article, so that just shows you that it's still relevant today. In fact, he conducted what we call time and motion studies to determine the most effective ways to perform tasks. If you recall, I had mentioned that I was a black belt. I'm actually a black belt in Lean Six Sigma processes, which focus on the efficient ways to perform tasks. In fact, when we look at his methods, we had found that it led to systematic work as well as structured workflows and improved productivity. This together all influenced modern management theory that we know today. Taylor's 4 principles of management emphasize the scientific study of tasks, systematic worker selection, cooperation between management and employees, and a balanced division of labor. These principles form the foundation of many contemporary business practices, including structured performance evaluation and workflow optimization. Taylor's followers, such as Henry Gantt, developed managerial tools still in use today. In fact, Henry Gantt introduced what we know as today as the Gantt chart, which you're going to see on the next slide. This allows project managers to track progress visually. Karl Barth also studied, and he looked at worker fatigue and understanding how this could work to improve labor efficiency. These contributions continue to shape management techniques, not only in planning, but scheduling as well as workforce optimization. In summary, the development of management thought has been absolutely profound, starting from the ancient world all the way through the 19th century Industrial Revolution. In Table 3.1, you're going to find that there is the list of the contributor as well as the outcome that has contributed to management practices that we know today. But this isn't it, and we're going to continue to talk about this in the next lecture. Thank you.